Hi, my name is Elizabeth and welcome to my channel. I have just been made redundant and I have decided that I'm going to go back into self-employment, which I previously did as of 2020. And in my last video talking about my redundancy, there were quite a few questions around freelancing, what freelancing is and how you go about finding work as a freelancer. So that is what this video is going to be about. Now, this video is very much going to be my personal experience, and I'm going to also give my personal opinions on platforms and things like that. So this is all from how I have experienced it since I have freelanced and my current experience now as well. So what is freelancing? Freelancing is when you work for a person or a company on a self-employed basis. Now this could be a fixed term contract, it could be ad hoc contract, it could be with a part-time retainer where you agree a certain amount of hours per month and you get paid for those hours, whether they give you the work that covers those hours or not. Or it could be where you get paid for the exact hours that you do of work for them. Now, many office-based roles can be shifted into the self-employment freelance type route. It's just a case of figuring out what your skills are and what is transferable. If you are new to this idea, some very simple and basic entry-level type freelance roles would be things like admin support, customer service. If you have bookkeeping experience, there's always people looking for freelance bookkeepers. Virtual assistance work, which is, I would say, quite often on the admin side, but also sometimes an operational side. Operations management, which is what I do as a freelancer. You've got project management, project coordination. Some of these you would obviously need experience for, others are more entry level. You can then go a step further. So say you're a graphic designer, you can be a freelance graphic designer, you could be a freelance marketing manager, you could be a freelance town planner. There's lots of different things that you can transfer from an employed role to a self-employed freelance role. Now, why would someone go self-employed freelance? Flexibility is often a big key for this. For me, for example, I've been struggling to find employed work for just 3 days a week. I only have childcare for 3 days a week. I can only do 3 days a week worth of work. And I'm finding that freelance clients often don't want to take on someone in a full-time role capacity. They may be a emerging business, a startup business. They may not have the funds to take someone on for 5 days a week. And therefore, they want someone to come in 2 mornings a week, for example, 3 days a week and do a particular role. The other perks of freelancing is you can often charge more per hour than what you would get as an employee. However, downsides of self-employment are that you don't get sick pay, you don't get holiday pay, nobody's paying into your pension except for you. So you'll need to set up your own pension pot, which is fairly easy to do, so that's not a big issue. And you don't have the same protection rights because you're not an employee. So if there's a disagreement between you and a client, that contract can be ended. There's no real protection around you, and you will often also need to sort out your own insurance as well. Another pro that I think from freelancing is that you can work with multiple clients at one time. So because quite often people don't want someone working for them 5 days a week full time, you could have one client on one day, one client another afternoon. You could do 2 hours a day for another client. You can have multiple clients, and for me that's actually more secure than having a full-time role. So before I was recently made redundant, I was freelance and I had multiple clients, and it meant that if I lost one client due to a project finishing or the company not working out, anything like that, I hadn't lost all of my income. I still had my other clients and I would just need to fill up the space that one client had gone. Whereas full-time employment, as my recent example of me, I have now lost all of my income because I gave up freelance, went into a employed role that's meant to be more secure, And 8 months later, I have been made redundant. And I am now unemployed and looking for freelance work because I can't find part-time employed work. I was very lucky to get the first part-time employed work. So for me, actually, I think freelance is more secure financially in my position. So you've decided you want to have a look into the freelance world, but where do you go to find freelance work? Now, I started my freelance journey in 2020. I got made redundant back then as well. I was working for a company, COVID hit, a lot of us were let go. So I started freelancing then. I used Upwork. I was very successful on Upwork. It wasn't as crowded as it currently is now, and I managed to build up a good portfolio, which is luckily going in my favour now on Upwork. Upwork has changed somewhat in the last 5-6 years, and I wouldn't say it's changed for the better. For me, it's probably the most useful place to go, but if you're someone starting from scratch, then it may be a bit of a hard slog to get your first client on there. I have seen multiple videos out there on YouTube and on TikTok saying you can go onto Upwork and charge £50 an hour for doing, X, Y, Z, and it's really easy. It is not. It is not. If you haven't got a portfolio that shows you've already had freelance clients, it will also show how much you've earned through the platform, then people don't know that you are a reliable freelancer, and that goes against you. So you'll need a standout CV and portfolio. So you'll really need to work at it and tailor your proposals. Now on Upwork, you will type in what you're looking for job-wise, and it will give you a list of current roles that people are advertising for. You can apply to any of these jobs, but you are now given connects, which are points, and depending on the job role, how long the job is for, how much money they're looking to pay for this job, that will tell you how many connects you need to spend to apply for that role. I think initially you're given a set amount of connects to use per month possibly, and then as you spend them applying for jobs, if you run out, you will then need to pay to buy more connects to apply for roles. I am very against this. I don't think anyone who is job searching should have to pay to job search or apply for jobs. I'm very against that. I understand the platform needs to make money, but that isn't the way to go about it. The platform will also take a percentage of your earnings. So the platform is in US dollars. You'll also need to take into account the exchange rate, but it takes, I think, 15% of your earnings. So bear that in mind when you're pitching for jobs and what your proposed rate is. It will give you a little chart telling you if you pitch at this amount, after Upwork have taken their share out, what you get, and then the number at the bottom, then convert into pounds if you're working in the UK. So they already take 15% of your earnings. So the fact that they then also charge you to apply for roles, I think is actually quite appalling. I will get off my Upwork soapbox for the moment, but it really, really irritates me. Now, because my portfolio on there is technically 5 years old, I've got a track record of clients I've worked for. I've got reviews from people. It shows how much I've earned on there previously. And it shows that I am a real person. So when starting with Upwork, you need to try and make your portfolio as good as you possibly can. There's lots of different areas on Upwork that it wants you to fill out everything. If it asks you to do some little tests and things like that, do them. It will probably go in your favor, but please note, if you haven't used it before and you don't have that track record, it may just take you a little bit longer to find your clients on there. Please do not listen to the videos that say jump on there and you'll get loads of work, because I don't know anyone that's like that. And I spent the last 8 weeks applying for jobs on Upwork with my profile and background, and I've only just heard back from a couple. So it takes time, and there's a lot of people on the system now. This then brings me to people per hour. Now, people per hour is very similar to Upwork, apparently. I wouldn't know because I haven't got that far through the system. After you spend ages setting up your profile, adding in all your information, what you're offering, your background, your experience, it then comes to a page and it tells you that for free you can get your profile verified. But I was number, and I wrote this down because I was horrified by it, I was number 260,295th in the queue for profile verification. And I could pay £10 if I wanted my profile to be verified in 24 hours. Now, I didn't choose to pay more because, again, I don't think you should have to pay to apply for work. But if there are 260,000 people also on the system, that's not including the people already on the system, that's just the wait list to get on there, then what is the likelihood of me standing out enough as a new person on that system? What is the likelihood that I will be able to get any work from there? So I gave up on that platform. Some people have success on there. I'm not going to touch it with a barge pole. Just my opinion. Other people may have a completely different experience. Job websites do also have remote roles and sometimes self-employed roles. I have applied and interviewed, I've had 2 interviews now for a job role that is a self-employed freelance role, but I found it through Indeed.com, which I wasn't expecting. It's when I was looking for part-time work in general. So do check out the traditional job websites for this information, for these job roles, and you might come across something that is actually freelance. Next one is word of mouth. Once you start getting freelance work, then you can ask your clients, you can say something, I have got extra hours available. It would be really helpful if you could let other businesses know that I'm available. Could you put in a good word for me? Could you write me a review to go on my portfolio, my platform, that type of thing. So word of mouth is a really good one because they are verifying that you are good at your role. Then we have LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, has a lot of job adverts on there. And quite a few of these can also be freelance, self-employed roles, especially if you're looking in like the administration space. I would often search for posts from founders who have got to a point with their business, they're expanding, and they just don't have enough time in the day to do everything and run the business themselves. And so they're looking for administrative type help. And that's when I would message and email them. A lot of people are also now doing that. So you'll get a lot of other people commenting, saying that they've dropped them a message and, I do XYZ for companies. So there is competition on there, but it is also a good place to find roles. And that's how I got my employed role, actually, was because someone shared a post with me where someone needed an operations manager because the company was expanding. And so that's how I got that role. So have a look on LinkedIn. I'm not the biggest fan of LinkedIn as a platform itself. I don't find enjoyment from it, but it's useful for this type of thing. So have a look at LinkedIn as well. And then the last one is cold emailing. Now, I haven't had any personal success with cold emailing. However, I've worked for companies where we have received inbound cold emails and we've hired those people, or we've taken them on as a freelancer. So it does work. It does work because I have taken on people for companies myself through this method. So if you've got a company that you like the look of, you genuinely think your services could help them, drop them a friendly email. Just drop them an email and just tell them what it is you do, how you could potentially help them. And it might not be that they get back to you instantly, but they might come back to you in a couple of weeks' time, or maybe a few months' time, when suddenly they realise, oh, actually, I need assistance with this. And I remember someone emailed me about it. Once you've found clients as a freelancer, then obviously you need to do the work that you are being hired to do. You're probably going to need your own equipment, so your own laptop, any IT equipment. You will be expected to have your own and to use your own. Very few places will supply you as a freelancer with these items, so make sure you've got your kit. You will also need to make sure that you keep all of your financial records up to date, because you will need to do a tax return each year, and you need to do all of your own finances and keep money aside each month for your tax. It's very important. You don't want your tax bill to come through to find out you haven't saved enough money to one side to pay it. You won't need an accountant necessarily. Tax returns really aren't that difficult. They're quite simple once you get the hang of them. Just keep all of your records simple. Keep a track of any receipts. If you buy a laptop, for example, then you will be able to put that against your tax bill. So keep all of your receipts, keep a log of your income, and just make sure you do your tax return on time. Once you have gone to HMRC and you have registered as self-employed, you will have access to their online system where you will submit your tax return. You probably won't need any accounting systems to begin with, unless you've got a lot of receipts coming in and out that you need to keep track of. You could probably do it all on a spreadsheet, so you can save yourself a little bit of money there by not paying for an accounting system straight away. Later down the line, that's something you can look into, but not right at the beginning. Freelancing can also be quite inconsistent with income, and sometimes you'll have inconsistencies as well with the money you're being paid by certain clients. I've always had clients that are upper and lower end of my rates, as it were, because that's what they could afford and I needed the work. You can, of course, renegotiate later down the line. There's no reason why you can't do that. But just remember that some months you may have more work than other months, which means your income could be lower or higher that month, depending on the work that's come in. So you won't be getting a standard payment every month like you would when you're employed. Sometimes you do also have to chase for your invoices to be paid. I've got one client in particular who just can't seem to pay me on time, and I will regularly have to chase them, or chase their accounts team anyway. It's not the actual person in charge of the business who seems to delay it, it's the accounts team. But you will have to chase people. Also look out for scams, because when I started my work as a freelancer right at the very beginning, I got scammed out of a month's worth of work. And that client vanished into thin air and I never got paid. So watch out for scammers. That's why the platforms are quite good to begin with. When I have worked with people on the platforms, I've been paid through the platform, and then later we've come off and I've done an invoicing process with them. So I give them my invoice with the number of hours I've done, and they pay that invoice directly to me. So we cut out the middleman. But to begin with, I would use the platform so that you know they're going to pay you, and they will have to have verified their payment as well on that system for them to be on there. So just protect yourself that way. Please don't get scammed. It's easily done. It happened to me, and it's really angry and frustrating when it happens. I'm going to do another video on self-employment in general and kind of the setup that I use being self-employed, what systems I use, how I manage my time, how I manage my clients, how I manage the workload. I'll do that all in a separate video. If you do have any more questions on freelancing or anything I've spoken about on here, please let me know in the comments, and I can always add that into another video, or I'll try and reply directly to you in the comments. But I really hope you found this helpful. So drop any comments down below. And again, this has just been like my personal experience. These are my personal opinions on certain platforms. If you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me, and that is fine. But I hope it's been useful to those of you who are maybe considering freelancing in the future.